Welcome to our very first Coaches Show of the season for Missouri Baptist football. I'm Harry Schroeder. Coach Jason Burianek is with us today before the first game of the season. And you guys have been practicing two-a-days and summer drills and all that. You've got to be excited that you actually have a game to prepare for.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think all of us are. Training camp is a lot of fun. You know, I always say it's one of my favorite times of the year because it's just us. You know, we don't have to worry about classes, and we can do football. And it's long days, but it's just us as a family, and that's a lot of fun. But there's no doubt that after as many days as you have in training camp, you can't wait to see another opponent. So looking forward to it.
You guys brought in a lot of newcomers. I don't want to talk about the people just yet, but you have a lot of incoming players, but you have a lot of returners, 15, 16, 17 seniors, something like that. This is the most kind of blended team you've ever had.
Yeah, I would say we do. It's the largest senior class we've ever had, and a lot of those guys, I think 14 or 15 of them are guys who have been here since 2014, and then we have one guy, Kevin Good, who's been here since absolute day one, so that's really neat to see him go through this process. But it is a much more blended team now. I think we do have a lot of freshmen, and you know, they obviously tip the scales, but I think that's the way most teams are this time of year. They have a larger number of freshmen than the other classes, but we are very blended, and it's nice to have a big group of seniors.
Lyon College on Saturday night, you guys really beat them pretty handily the final game of last year. So the positive is, hey, we're confident we can beat this team. The negative is, maybe we're confident. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the thing that we've been preaching to the guys is it's a totally different year. You know, at the end of 2016, every team, one of my coaches, and I love the analogy, every team dies, and in January a new team is reborn, and then in August it's reborn again with, you know, all kinds of newcomers. So we're totally different. I mean, we're a totally different team. I'm expecting Lyon to be a totally different team. Maybe not necessarily in scheme and what we do, but just in people. Looking at their depth chart and comparing it to ours, we actually have a lot more younger players than what they do. So, you know, it'll be interesting. That's good. You know, I think in a lot of ways, obviously, we would like to have maybe more seniors and juniors on that depth chart, but I think it speaks to the level of freshmen that we brought in. It speaks to the amount of competition we've had out on the field. And what we talk about in recruiting is that a freshman can come in and compete for a starting job. And I think if you look at our two deep, you definitely will notice that there's a lot of truth to that.
In the game last year, they ran for, I don't know, 350 yards. You threw for 400 yards or something. Complete different style of play between the two teams.
Absolutely, and we expect that to be the same. You know, we expect them to be a big, physical, downhill run team where we're more of a spread passing team. There's no doubt about that. So we've talked a lot about emphasizing the run for us as well as being a team that can run the ball. So that's something we've put a lot of emphasis on. But there's no doubt we're expecting them to be very similar to last year, line up with those big linemen. The big tight end, number 80, is back for them. Their fullback is back, and I think they moved him to tailback now. They've got two guys that are 220, 230 pounds back there that are big, physical, downhill runners. So this is a game that we're going to find out how good we are up front, how tough we are. You know, we've got to be able to strap up tight and go hit somebody.
Let's talk about some of the newcomers. You talked about having a lot of freshmen, but you've got some guys on the team that are brand new that you really expect to be difference makers.
Yeah, you know, the guy I think that gets the most notoriety and is Deontay Cox, the wide receiver that we brought in from Rochester, Illinois, and he's a dynamic player. I think he's going to complement Isaiah quite well. And then Devin Griffin, who is going to be a sophomore, he showed up in that last game against Lyon last year and made some unbelievable plays. The three of those guys are extremely athletic, and so there's a lot of depth out there on the edge and some guys that can create some very tough mismatches for a defense, I think. So offensively, he's a guy that's standing out, a guy that has really shown up, and really he started winning this job back in May and June in the offseason. Freshman from Alton, Cody Markle at the offensive line position. He'll be our starting center coming into this week, and he's done a great job. He showed up every day in the offseason. He's worked with Coach Williams on playbook. He's just a football guy, has put in a lot of great time. And then Talon Lightsey is a guy from South Carolina that is going to be our free safety, and he's really done a great job of grasping the secondary position. I think he'll do a great job taking over from Eddie Calderon, and it's really nice because Eddie's actually helping on a part-time basis as a grad assistant back there with us. So it's fun to have a grad back working with you, and he's been a great mentor for Talon. And then obviously number 3, the old reliable Bomstead, who's going to be a senior. He's a great guy to have play next to Talon. So there'll be a lot of freshmen out there that are going to compete again with the older guys, but they're pushing everybody, and that's what we have enjoyed more than anything, is just watching the competition on a daily basis.
New players, but some new coaches too, some guys with some NFL pedigree. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we're really blessed. I think we've got just a great coaching staff. I know everybody probably says that. I'd put ours up against anybody. They're just great guys. They're fun to be around. Keith Williams is a guy we've talked a lot about. He was here in the spring with us. He's our offensive line coach, actually a St. Louis native. And before we came on, you mentioned you remember doing some of his games at McClure North. He played for a legend here in the area, Jim Schottmuller, and Coach Schottmuller's been great to our program. Longtime friend of Coach Coe's, obviously, going recruiting there a lot. But Coach Williams went to Nebraska, was a 5th-round draft pick by the Steelers, and then played 4 years with the Buffalo Bills, and then played 1 year of Arena League, and now he's here with us. And he's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, just what he expects out of the offensive line, those guys are just working, and he's really changing what the attitude needs to be with those guys up front, which has been a lot of fun to watch throughout spring and into the fall. And then Joe Bowden is a linebacker coach that's going to be doing a lot of the defensive play calling, taking some of that off of my plate, which has been great. Joe is another Coach Co connection, which the number of people that he has connections with, and how Coach Co is just so unselfish about helping Missouri Baptist grow and our program grow has been great. But Joe was the linebacker coach for the 49ers last year, and assistant linebacker coach with the Rams before that. So it's been a great opportunity to work with those guys. Learn from them. Me kind of swap ideas with Joe a lot, and we have a good time together. So the kids love them. Obviously they've got the pedigree.
Some credit.
Yeah.
The kids are like, whoa, you played in the big leagues.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where they want to be. And I think he's really changed a guy like Keenan Savage. We moved Savage position, and Savage just has a newfound focus, and I think a lot of that is accredited to what Joe puts in Keenan in regards to the confidence that he puts into him, of that he can be a great player not only at this level but potentially even at the next level.
You talked about Keenan Savage. Let's talk about some of the holdover guys that maybe the fans remember. Some of the guys more prominent. Keenan was a terrific defender for you last year. You mentioned Isaiah King and Devin and Bomstead, but talk about some of the guys coming back that people go, oh yeah, I remember him. I mean, we're getting reoriented to the team.
Sure. Bryson Barnes is a guy that is going to be a senior for us, and I believe he's the only guy in our history who's played in every game. Yeah, so obviously Bryson's going to be the guy at tight end. Losing Kalen Petty this year hurts, but Bryson and Anthony Taeli are going to be guys that are going to step up, and Bryson is just that. He's just so consistent. You know what you're going to get with him. You know what you're going to get with him in the practice field. You know what you're going to get with him in the classroom. He's just that even keel guy, and so can't wait to see him back. Obviously, Mike Beekert's another guy. Kendall Davis, Austin Schultz, guys in the backfield, and then we'll see what happens at the quarterback position. There's some veteran guys, but there's some young guys that are really competing there as well. Defensively, I think at the linebacker spot, you're going to see a little bit of a difference. Obviously, we graduated Sean Geary, but Caleb Carver, who's a junior, he's seen some action in the past. Yep, he's won out that job for the starting Mike linebacker position, and then Dontrell Johnson is another guy. And what we did this year, just to kind of fit the defense a little better, was we moved Dontrell to our Sam linebacker, our strong side, and moved Keenan to our weak side. So I think that'll be a really good adjustment for us. And obviously, Dontrell and his brother Devontae, DJ, as we call him, are just two really, steady guys for us.
So excited about the opening game and the entire season. After this week, then you play 3 in a row at home. That's got to be fun to think about a long home stretch.
Yeah, it is. I know it becomes a little bit of a wear because you always know I would prefer not having that long home stretch because what you know is that you're going to pay for it at some other time. You're going to have 3 road games in a row. But there's no doubt, we get a weekend against an opponent that, I think it's going to be a battle. But the thing that I like about the game is that it's a game that I think that we can go into and build some of that confidence. I think that we can compete against these guys, and that's what we want to see. Then we have a week off to make some corrections, get things tuned up, and then we've got St. Xavier coming in, and we've got 3 home games in a row. So, at that point, what we've really talked to our guys about is that we've got 10 games in a row. So we've got to start mentally preparing for that. And we focus a lot on what the process is to winning football games and take one day at a time and focus in on that. So these guys have done great. I mean, just watching them gel in training camp, you can tell it's a unique group that really gets along. They challenge each other. We get after it in practice, and there's been several times where fights have broken out in practice, and that's something.
Coaches don't mind that.
Well, at sometimes you do because you're losing reps, but I think when you're really trying to build a program and see what your team's made of, it's okay to get that type of competition. 2 guys that are really just trying to win that battle. And the best thing that I've seen is as soon as that's over and you kind of get it split up and you're going on, that it ends there. And that's really what you've got to have. You got to have guys that want to go out every day and make each other better. And I've seen that so far in the the early part of this season.
Final question. 3 wins last year was a big step forward for your program. What's the improvement goals? I don't mean wins and losses, but where do you think this team will improve the most this year as compared to last?
Well, I think in just our competitiveness, I think every year we get a little bit better of who are we as a program, and getting guys with high character, getting guys that are respectful, that are going to go out and compete, and those are 3 of the 4 pillars of our program. So I really think that what we're going to see is just a continued foundation being laid, and I think that this is a year that we can really take some steps forward in the win column. We've talked a lot about sticking together, and we have to all be moving in the same direction, and that's really what we're about. So I think what you're going to see this year is a more consistent football team, not as much the up and down. I think last year, even the games we won, it wasn't always pretty. It was high scoring, on both sides of the ball where we're giving up too many plays, and I expect that that's going to get fixed. And then at the same token, you go to Lindenwood Belleville where defensively we played really well, but the offense struggled. And I think what Spartan fans will see this year is you'll see more of a team going towards the game, where even though we may not win, I think that there will be more consistent play on both sides of the ball, and then you'll really notice the difference in special teams.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
That's head coach Jason Burianek. I'm Harry Schroeder. For the broadcast, Guy Danoff and Brad Seigan on the call for the first game of the year against Lyon College. Thanks for joining us.